And yet it is something that can be very confusing. Just the thought of reality is like, I live in it. I know it's an important thing, but it can be very confusing because there's so many mixed messages about reality that you're surrounded with. What's real, what's true. And so how do we even know what is real? And you think, oh, I know, it's obvious. You just look around and see, yeah. But what about when we disagree with other people about what is reality? And some even would go as far as say, is there such a thing? Do we even know that anything is really real? And they get real philosophical and makes our heads hurt. And then we start to think, well, I thought I knew, but who really gets to decide what is real, what's reality? And it can be a real puzzler. I love puzzles. This is my segue. I love puzzles. We did puzzles for our game a few minutes ago. Let me tell you, I can nerd out on puzzles. So much so that I got super excited. One of my favorite gifts from this past year was a puzzle board. Because we would always have to move it out of the way, when companies coming over, or we just needed to move it out of the way. We'd have to move, like it was on a felt thing that just would roll up, but it would kind of get jumbled sometimes. And so this board, look, it even has drawers. How nerdy is this? And if I'm like, I'm done working on the bottom, so I need to work on the top now, watch. Y'all see that? I know, right? That's so good. It makes my life so much simpler. I don't get to work puzzles nearly as often as I want, but maybe like seasonally, Haven is my puzzle helper. Shep tries to zoom in at the end and like get the last piece and like hide it and pretend like he's done anything with it. And Camp doesn't even pretend to like puzzles. He just tries to get in the pictures or not. So it's that time of year. It's fall time. And so, yeah, love this Neyland Stadium. I think this one is 500 piece, if I remember correctly. Anyway, no, maybe it's just this. It's all this stuff. Whatever it is, that's a good time. That's a 500 piece puzzle for football time. Christmas time. Elf, we worked this one, I think, last Christmas, if I remember correctly. That was super fun. This one is unopened, so looks like we will be working this one soon. This kind is fun. No, it's not fun. It is it's challenging. It's challenging. It's not fun because it's like a lot of the colors blend in. That is a very hard puzzle, 1,000 piece, and we pretty much are 1,000 piecers at this point. And so we got some work to do for that one, but I do love hot air balloons, so that's beautiful. Is that Thomas Kincaid? No, but dude gets his name on a lot of puzzles, huh? Painter of Light, Thomas Kincaid. I love puzzles. Who loves working puzzles? Who are my puzzle people? Some of you are all in. Some of you are doing this number, like kind of like this. Maybe 6 or 7 years. And so I just think that they're so fun. So in the game we did earlier, I saw some of you are actually like really methodical and very good at it and attacked it and got the so you know the rules about puzzles. There are some rules, and one that seems pretty obvious is you need all the right pieces. You need all the right pieces. So you guys worked this one earlier. I think did the ladies win? Yes. Ladies won with this puzzle. Great job. And so if we poured this out, I assume all the pieces were there. Y'all worked it, right? This is a 48-piece puzzle that is just so fun. Yeah, so you start with, where do you start? The edges? Edges. That's not a rule. That's a strategy. That's not a rule. But a rule would be, I say it's a rule, like what's the point if you don't have all the pieces? So rule number one for working puzzles is you need all the pieces. So if you ever get a puzzle from someone, a friend gives you a puzzle, which Michael Walker also loves puzzles, and so we trade puzzles. That's so nerdy. Like he'll bring us one he's finished, and we hand him ones we finished, and he'll say, they're all there, I promise. We did it. I put it all together. They were all there. So that's really, really important. All the pieces need to be there. There's nothing more frustrating than getting to the end of the puzzle and realizing there's a piece missing. I mean, there's nothing more. That is the worst thing in the world. There's nothing worse in the world than a puzzle with a missing piece. Can you imagine a worse thing? Okay, maybe don't imagine that very long. That's way overstated. When a puzzle is, okay, so that's awful. But you know what might actually be worse? So maybe I'm already contradicting myself. You know what might also be worse? I'm working this puzzle. Another rule. When you're working a puzzle, you do not want what? Well, that's true. You don't want, there's a lot of things you don't want. You don't want war in the world. You don't want, people to go hungry. You also don't want other puzzle pieces to be in your puzzle. I don't know how I'll ever finish this puzzle now that these pieces are in this puzzle. I can't imagine how we will ever sort that out. But imagine if you have a 1,000-piece puzzle and we dumped it. No, that's close. I'm not doing that. Imagine if we dump that and we just start taking all these puzzles and just adding them to this one, and oh my goodness, that's so frustrating. That might be worse than not having them all. That you have to sort them out from one another, and that's so frustrating. Okay, again, this next thing I'm going to say is not a rule, but it is a strategy that you who work puzzles, you know. What is the best way to accomplish a puzzle successfully, or the best strategy or technique? Did somebody say look it up? Look it up? Like YouTube how to work this puzzle? Wow, I've never thought about that. I've done many things with YouTube. I've never thought, wow, I'm not doing that, but that's very clever. No, you look at the picture on the cover. Yeah, see where we're going with this? I do it all the time. As a matter of fact, I wouldn't say Haven and I fight over it. We don't fight over it, but we kind of are like, who's going to get I need to see that. And I don't have bad vision, but I am getting to the point where I'm kind of like, I need to see it a little more closely than you do, Haven. So you look at the big picture or the small picture on the cover to see what you're trying to put together. Got it? This is an imagery, a metaphor, if you will, of worldview. This is what worldview is. Worldview is, let's see if we're on, a picture of reality. Our worldview. Your view, and this is maybe a definition that I adopted from somewhere, your view of reality and the basis for your decisions. Worldview is your view of reality and the basis for your decisions. I mean, that's kind of obvious. View is in the word, for crying out loud. Your view of the way the world actually is. But the next part is super important, and the basis for your decisions. So this is important because I remember learning this years ago when I first started learning about, did you know you have a worldview? Oh, I didn't know, until someone told me. I didn't know. Use this illustration to describe how important our worldview is. And so you who know me somewhat well know I love trees. And so if I have a tree here, this is, what kind of tree would this be? A flat tree, like a very scrunched tree. I just didn't want it to go off. That is a rocky oak, if you wanted to know. But this is the part you can see of a tree. What part can you not see? Well, the inside. Okay. Oh, my goodness. Yeah. The roots. I heard somebody say the inside. That's true, unless you chop it open. Now, you could dig down and see the roots. And so a worldview can be illustrated by this. This is the roots part. The bottom part is our worldview, or our belief system, the way we view reality. And then the trunk, what supports it, what holds it up, is our values. Values. So what do you think would be up here in the branches, the fruit of it? I got to draw some fruit. This is a polka dot tree now. It is our what? Actions. Yeah, yes, got it right. And maybe actions and attitudes. This is like how we act. What people see is up here. What we value is here, like what's important to us. All that is based on our worldview. Some of you have studied worldview before in classes and other things, and hopefully I got this right. Hopefully. So what you believe is real and true about the world will inform what's important to you, which informs your attitudes and actions, and that's what we base the way we live, our decisions are based on what we truly believe. So not many of us sit and contemplate what those are unless you are a philosopher, but these are like what forms what's our worldview? How do we know? Like you might say, well, it's just what I in this room. You might say, well, I read the Bible and my parents taught me and all that. That's great. That's how you came about it. But what are they teaching you? And all worldviews. By the way, this may be maybe you already figured this out or know this, but every person has a worldview. When I knew I was going to say that, I thought, like, does a baby have a worldview? I mean, I suppose they do, but it's in the formation. It's in the making. A worldview is kind of coming into being based on how they experience the world, what's taught to them. So many factors contribute to their worldview, but everyone has a worldview, and it answers these 4 questions. Now, even as I started looking up and researching this, I saw that some said there are 3 questions, and some may add more. So based on the person I researched from, 4 questions in our worldview. You ready? Our origin. Every worldview answers the question, how did we get here? What is ultimately reality? Like where did we come from? How did we get here? What's the answer to that? Next question is our identity. And this is wrestling with who are we? What are we like? What are human beings like? How did we become like we are? What gives us value? Are we valuable or are we kind of worthless dust beings floating in the wind? Who are we? What are we like? The third question is about morality. And that is the question that you start to wrestle with. How do we know right and wrong? Every worldview has to answer that. Like if every person you know could say something's wrong with the world, something's broken, it's not the way it's supposed to be. I don't know how I could define what it's supposed to be, but this ain't it. There's some good things, but there are also some things that just clearly are not good. Well, you've made an assumption or a statement about morality that informs your worldview. So there you go. You've got a worldview. So if anybody ever asks you, like Rob Shaver in the sermon this morning asked the question or addressed when people ask the question, how does a good God allow evil to happen in the world? Which we're not going to answer right now, but not going to address right now. But that is assuming there is a God, that he is good, and that there is such a thing as evil. So how do we know that there's right and wrong? And so it's when we start getting the idea of, like, where does guilt come from? If you feel guilty about something you've done, or you think someone else has shame, or there's some sense of justice for wrong they've done, then you believe something in your worldview is informing your sense of morality. Fourth question. So fourth question is, I might need your help, Peter. Okay, there you go. Purpose. What happens to humans at death? We're here for an amount of time. We came from somewhere. This is the kind of people we are. It wasn't all great. Some things were fine, but it wasn't all great. But then our purpose, like, where are we going? What was the purpose of this whole thing after all? Was there any purpose to this, or are we just done? So those questions that we wrestle with when you're laying in bed at night and just pondering the universe, this is what you're asking. This is your worldview. And you can see how if those things are your worldview, how those would determine what your values are and what your actions and attitudes are. So if your worldview is, I believe a loving God made me, therefore I value human life. Every person matters. Everybody's made in the image of God, and so every person matters. So my actions and attitudes would be like, well, then I need to be good to other people. I need to treat them with kindness and serve them and be generous and all the things that come with actions that follow the worldview that says, I believe there's a loving God who made people. On the other hand, I'm taking just one out of many, many illustrations, which over the course of the series we will address some others. But if someone's worldview is, there was no creator. It's all natural. Everything can be explained by science. We didn't come from a creator being. We came from we evolved over time, and here we are. Then your values would be kind of like human value is not that precious. We end, when we die, we're just done. And therefore, what would your actions and attitude be like? You'd probably just kind of live large, live life to the best that you know how to do, make it the best, and maybe you have to stomp on some people to get there because you're like, what's the big deal? I'm trying to live my life. They are too. And, I mean, it's probably not quite that extreme, but plenty of people in our world live that way, that There's no God telling us what to do, so I just live however I want. Can you see how your worldview informs your decisions? Your decisions are based on your worldview. So that's why this is extremely important to talk about and for you to really think through and wrestle with the puzzle of what is reality? What do I believe is true about the world? And I don't want you to just assume that you know. I don't want to just assume that you know. I want you to wrestle with it, and I think that's a good thing. I want us to, like, I keep saying I think it's beneficial for you if you wrestle with this because, and here, so far I've just kind of been explaining what a worldview is and one kind of academic or cognitive reason why it matters, but let me tell you something that is a little scarier. The reality is, hit me one more time, Peter. Not all worldviews can be true. That's like, well, duh. There are conflicting realities. So when you hear someone say, a friend who's well-meaning and really thinks they've got it figured out, and he or she says to you, but all worldviews are really the same. And they may not say worldviews, by the way. They may not use that term, but they may say all paths, all religions, all ways are ultimately getting to the same place. I would say, well, actually, I'd probably ask them some questions first, and we'll get to that another time. But I just want to tell you guys that cannot literally be true because worldviews say actually conflicting, contradicting things that can't both be true at the same time. So we'll save that for another part in the series. But just right now, the reality is not all worldviews are true, and that means there's an implication, and I believe, there is a true worldview. There is a reality. There is a reality. Unless there's not and we don't exist and this is all made up and we're in the Matrix and something like I'm in your imagination right now. Like, why are you imagining me? That'd be really strange. But if there is truth, then it would make sense that someone is trying to deceive us from believing that truth if the biblical story is the way it is. Do you remember in Genesis chapter 3, we talked about this, we talked about it multiple times, but about this time last year when we did a series on the beginning of Genesis, Imago, about the image of God being made in his image. In Genesis chapter 3, just after God created this beautiful world and everything in it, and then put two people in the garden to work it and tend it, gave them a meaning and purpose to like multiply, fill the earth, and man, it was a beautiful beginning. And then the deceiver, some call him Satan or the devil, the evil one comes and begins to question Eve, that first woman, and, asked her, did God really say you could not eat from any, or you couldn't, touch any tree in the garden? And she said, well, actually, he said you shouldn't eat from this one, or else you will surely die. And then the deceiver, who did what he's so good at, click me again, says this: God knows that your eyes will be opened as soon as you eat it, and you will be like God, knowing both good and evil. This was what the evil one told the deceiver did. This was his tactic to try to get a human to believe something that wasn't true, believe that what she thought was real was false and that God was holding out on her. What he, the evil one, was essentially saying is, oh, Eve, if you eat of this, then you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. That God, whatever, he's lying to you. That's not the truth. This is what the deceiver is saying. Don't hear Rocky saying this. The deceiver is saying it's not true. And if you know the truth will set you free so that you're going to know good and evil, and you'll be free to live however you want. Your worldview can be whatever you want it to be. You get to be in charge. You get to call the shot to make it. You don't have to answer to anybody. You'll know good and bad, and you'll just be free and live large. Does this sound familiar at all? This is still the tactic the evil one is using today, every single day, constantly. Probably he is, through some form, has said it to you in some way. Now, maybe not a serpent, maybe not in verbal, in a way you heard it out loud, but maybe like in temptation, and you are on TikTok and you see some really interesting things, some weird things, some things that are funny that you share with friends, and then you see something about worldview or something about science or faith that you're like, hang on, pause. As a matter of fact, when I looked on TikTok, which I don't do often, that's a scary world, man. That's a scary place. And I just typed in worldview, just that word, worldview. You who are on TikTok, well, even if you're not, you can imagine the kinds of stuff that popped up. And I don't mean it was like bad, evil stuff. I just mean like there are bukus of people who have opinions and thoughts, and like you could be like, I don't need to hear you explain this, Rocky, because there's so many people out there who that's true. You can go find information about worldview, and you find somebody's better drawing of a tree and somebody's better questions and all that. Like, it's out there. So it's really confusing about what is real. And the evil one is using some of those to deceive you. And it's very hard to know, like, if I'm putting together this puzzle, like, how do I know if I'm putting it together right? How do I know if I have all the right pieces? What if there are some wrong pieces mixed in? What if I've heard about the Bible and Jesus and God, but I'm starting to hear about how, oh, that can't be true. It's figurative language. God didn't really create. It's like it's a fairy tale. It's a good fairy tale. Hey, not unlike this. That worked out nice. It's a fairy tale image. Your picture that you have is like it's not a bad idea, but it's not real. It's just a fairy tale to help you feel good, like a crutch to make you feel good about the way the world is. But that's not, like, there's no God. There's no being up there. Like, the evil one would love to make you think you will know the truth and the truth will set you free. But have y'all ever heard someone else say that same line? Now, that's not written in here. I'm using that line to say, I heard someone else say that, and that was my Lord and Savior. Now, I'm putting my cards on the table. No shock to you what my worldview is. That doesn't surprise you whatsoever. That Jesus also said that line that I've been quoting in John chapter 8. And I want to show you in verses, go ahead and click it again, Peter. 31, John 8, 31 and 32. John 8, 31 and 32 says what is a fairly famous line. Jesus, man, he had been really challenged by the Pharisees, the religious leaders who had a worldview that was, you'd say, it's pretty close to Jesus. Yes, and that there's a creator God, but they just they had some different views on the way God was working in the world and what the Messiah or the chosen one, sent one from God was going to be like. So their worldview just would not allow them to believe that Jesus was the Messiah. And so they kept pressuring him and trying to trick him and test him. And he was getting more and more as his time on earth went along. He was getting more and more direct with these guys. And so he says some things here in John 8 that, well, he says some really great things like, I am the light of the world. But the implication is there are people in darkness. Verse 31 says, Jesus said to the people who believed in him, you are truly my disciples if you remain faithful to my teachings, and you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. And they said, but we are descendants of Abraham. They said, we have never been slaves to anyone. What do you mean you will be set free? Jesus replied, I tell you the truth. Everyone who sins is a slave to sin. A slave is not a permanent member of the family, but a son is a part of the family forever. Verse 36. So if the Son sets you free, you are truly free. And I hate to even stop there because it's really good. Like, it goes on. So I thought about reading the rest of that, but I want to stick to my point. That I believe Jesus is saying you will know the truth and the truth will set you free. And I think the deceiver is saying the same thing. They can't both be true. Either God is who he says he is and he's good, or God is holding out and he's a liar and he just is trying to keep the good life from you. So which is it? That's what we're going to wrestle with in this reality series. And so tonight, my job was basically to expose to you what maybe you already knew intuitively, that this is confusing. I believe there is a truth to be known. There is a reality to be known. And so this is what I would suggest to you as we get ready to transition to small groups. Work on your puzzle. I should have put quotes on it. I'll do air quotes. Work on your puzzle. Like, get to work on, don't just let your puzzle sit there and be like, I'm content to know that there is a picture of reality. I shouldn't use that one. I'll use this one. No. There is a picture of reality. There is a true picture. the puzzle is there for a reason. I have the questions and thoughts. I think about things that matter for a reason because someone put them there. And so teenagers, even if you're not a teenager, I'm calling this room youth, young people, students, 6th through 12th graders, young disciples of Jesus, curious people. It is not enough to just say, because my parents said so. It's not enough to say, I saw it on a video somewhere. It's not enough to even say, Mr. Rocky told me, or don't call me Mr. Rocky, just Rocky said so. It's not enough to say that. What really matters is, what is the big picture? And you don't get to define it. As we'll learn as this series goes along, there is definitely a movement, definitely a mindset that says, you get to figure it out. You make your own picture. You're in charge of you. You do you. That would assume you made the picture, but I'd say, I'm just not that good. I try to be a good guy, but I'm just not that impressive to come up with a big picture and come up with a puzzle. So look at the big picture. Pay attention to worldview issues. So as you listen to music and watch movies and TV shows and see advertisements and listen to your science teacher or philosophy or, your friends on the bus or at the lunch table, start paying attention. You don't have to tell them that's what you're doing because you can listen without letting them know unless you have that glazed look in your eyes and you're like, that's a worldview. Oh, I see why you act the way you do now because you believe this. Don't start going around becoming like the expert on everybody's worldview. Just start paying attention to it. That's all I'm asking you to do at this point. Pay attention and start thinking, what is my worldview? Do I have one? Yes. I'm telling you have one. What is it? And I'm not going to tell you what it is. Get to know Jesus as he is he the real deal? Get to know Jesus. Is he the real deal? Jesus made a claim. I am the truth. Like when you know the truth, I am the truth. This will set you free. That's Jesus' claim. And I fully subscribe to that. I'm letting you know. But that's what next week is about. What is the Christian claim on the worldview? And I do want to say, for those who want to dive deeper than we're going to be able to do in here, first of all, small groups is a place to really tune in and pay attention and have real conversation. Lay it out there if you've got questions. If you're like, I don't believe what Rocky said, that's okay. Talk about it with your small group and with your family and others. Another thing for high schoolers to be a part of is the reality conference. Can you click to the next? Yep. The story of reality is the theme for the reality conference. It's happening September 12th through 13th. Highly encourage high schoolers to come be a part of that. Now, just FYI, it's open for anyone. So if you're not in high school and you want to go, your parents can take you. But we're creating an experience for high schoolers to go to it together on Friday night. Come back here and we'll have conversation about it, actually spend the night, go back there on Saturday, and it's an all-day thing, like listening to workshops and discussions, really interesting discussions. The information is on the youth website. Would love for you to check that out so that we can go back to that last one, work on your puzzle. So we can work on this reality. Peter, go ahead and click back on that one time or click the next one. Yeah, so that you can do this. Get to know Jesus, work on what do you believe is reality, and let's ask him to help us understand our worldview. Let me pray a blessing over you as you head to small groups and discuss. Our Father in heaven, we believe that your name is holy. We believe that your kingdom has come, and we want your will to be done on earth as it is in heaven. We believe that you created all of this world, this beautiful place, and that you still care about it, and that you care so much that you sent your Son, the truth, the way, the life, to show us the way and to invite us to the freedom that we have when we believe the truth about the way the world actually is. And so I pray that you'd help young people discover, and let's figure this out. Let's discover. And so we have something solid to stand on, that our faith is not shaky, that we have confidence in the way the world actually is, and that we believe that Jesus is at the center of that. And it's in his name we pray. Amen.